Isn't this the fast I choose, releasing wicked restraints, untying the ropes of a yoke, setting free the mistreated, and breaking every yoke? Isn't it sharing your bread with the hungry and bringing the homeless poor into your house, covering the naked when you see them, and not hiding from your own family? Then your light will break out like the dawn, and you will be healed quickly. Your own righteousness will walk before you, and the Lord's glory will be your rear guard. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help, and God will say, I am here. If you remove the yoke from among you, the finger pointing, the wicked speech, if you open your heart to the hungry and provide abundantly for those who are afflicted, your light will shine in the darkness, and your gloom will be like the noon. The Lord will guide you continually and provide for you, even in parched places. He will rescue your bones. You will be like a watered garden, like a spring of water that won't run dry. They will rebuild ancient ruins on your account. The foundations of generations past you will restore. You will be called mender of broken walls, restorer of livable streets.
Let us pray together. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Our Lent worship series is based on the words of the prophet Amos, who tells us that God doesn't want our joyous worship unless we are also concerned with justice. Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. So the Isaiah passage that we heard is telling us the same thing. It's a response to verse 3 that we didn't read, where the people pose the question, why do we fast and you don't see? Why afflict ourselves and you don't notice? And God replies, explaining that the type of fast that God is wanting is not a fast from food, although that has its place, but a fast where yokes are broken, the hungry are full, the homeless housed, and the naked clothed, where those who are afflicted are provided for abundantly. Or as your strips of cloth for our waterfall today say, God wants us to preach good news to the poor, proclaim release to the captives, recovery of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to announce the time has come for God to save us, to heal the sick, to feed the hungry, and eat with sinners. And when that happens, God tells us, then you will be like a watered garden, like a spring of water that won't run dry. Notice that water imagery again? But that's not where we are yet, because people are still hurting, hungry, excluded, and oppressed. So we are being called to be faithful disciples, to do God's work, to be, as Isaiah said, restorers of livable streets. Well, historically, the Church has used the Lent period to prepare candidates for baptism or confirmation in the case of those baptized as infants. So in this series, we're also thinking about the baptismal ceremony. In the early Church, communion was a culminating act in the ritual of baptism. But on the table was not just a cup of wine, but also cups of water and cups of honey. Water representing that the baptized people have come through the Red Sea of deliverance, and milk and honey recalling God's promised land of milk and honey. celebrating communion after baptism with these cups of wine and water and milk and honey, powerfully symbolized a community gathered together around a heavenly feast, a community that is fed, not hungry. In Paul's letter to the Corinthians, Paul admonishes the community in Corinth for not making sure everyone had equal access to the food on the communal table. This is the supper to which all are invited, and where we pray for a time when hunger is no more. Bishop Latrell Miller-Easterling said in her prayer poem, "May I have the courage to confront the injustices I witness. May I be willing to open my mind and broaden my understandings of discriminatory practices and positions of which I was once ignorant." And so, as this slogan from the UCC Church would put it, we are called to be the church. Protect the environment, care for the poor, forgive often, reject racism, fight for the powerless, share earthly and spiritual resources, embrace diversity, love God, and enjoy this life. So what's stopping us? What stifles our generosity? What fear gets in the way of believing that there is enough for all? I'd like to point just one thing out this morning, and that is when you are accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. When we've been accustomed to having something, then having to share it can be difficult for us. It's the same discomfort that an only child feels when they go to preschool and discover that there are other children and that they want to play with the toys too. The toys in preschool are for everyone to share, and when children throw a fit, we teach them to share. Listen to the way that Chris Barskell explains equality and oppression using an illustration from the time when he met Chuck. And following what I'm going to share with you is a summary of his blog from March 2016. Chris himself was a waiter at a restaurant, and he'd worked there for about 9 months when Chuck was employed as a new waiter. Chuck was a large guy who, when he walked towards you, assumed that you were going to get out of his way. Chuck barreled along and barged his way through, and you had to move or get mown down. Well, all the other waiters that Chris worked with, they would take turns as to who got right away, or each would move slightly to let the other through between the narrow passages between the tables. But not Chuck. Eventually, Chris started to think, I've got just as much right to walk between the tables as Chuck. And he started to ask himself, what if I just kept walking? So one day, Chris decided he would do just that. Chris was done playing by Chuck's rules. Chris kept walking, he braced himself, and he collided with Chuck. And the impact swung Chuck around. And Chuck was furious and asked Chris why didn't he just get out of the way. And Chris told Chuck, well, he was just walking. And he asked Chuck why Chuck assumed that he, Chris, would get out of the way. Well, Chuck followed Chris angrily around all evening after that. And when Chris said to him, welcome to planet Earth, Chuck shoved Chris hard. And Chris, not expecting it, was pushed 2 steps back. Heart pounding, Chris wondered whether to tell a manager, but that seemed like a bad idea. Or whether to say more to Chuck, but that seemed like an even worse idea. It turned out that a customer had observed the whole interaction and told the manager, who filled out an incident report and asked Chris if he wanted to press charges. Chris didn't want Chuck to lose his job. He just wanted Chuck to know that other people have just as much right to be in the aisles doing their job as Chuck did. So no charges were pressed. Chuck and Chris eventually became friends, proving that people who see the world very differently can get along when they're open to change and willing to see the world through another person's eyes. There is hope. So as Chris points out, when you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. But it's not. What you're feeling is just the discomfort of losing a little bit of your privilege. There are many people who are rightfully angry in the world for having to move out of the way. And when they start to ask themselves, what if I just keep walking? Then they might collide with us. And it can feel uncomfortable to us. If we're used to swimming in a pool on our own, enjoying swimming laps in peace, then letting others use the pool feels like we are being oppressed. But we're not. We were just privileged. Everyone has the right to use the pool. We're called to be compassionate and courageous, to speak up and stand up for what is right and good, to encourage those who need to just keep on walking, but then to accept that as they do, we might ourselves lose a little bit of what we've been accustomed to enjoying. In our reading of Matthew this week, on Monday we read chapter 19 about how hard it is for the rich person, the person with everything, to enter the kingdom of heaven. N.T. Wright, in his reflection, pointed out that Jesus wasn't talking about the afterlife, but about how hard it is for the rich man to enter the whole new world that God wants to make right here and now. The rich man was told to give everything that he owned away. Wright concludes, the way to follow the God of all power and possibility may well be to give away our power and responsibilities. May we be generous with what we have, and be gracious as we give away what we treasure, so that equality can be experienced by others. God has work for us to do as restorers of livable streets, so that justice can roll down, and all are invited to be in communion and fellowship with one another. If we go and stand by a waterfall, we can be mesmerized by the sheer volume of water pouring over. But that waterfall is fed by many tiny streams. Each one contributes to the massive flood of water. Just as we have built this cloth waterfall, one cloth at a time, over the last 5 weeks, each time we let go of a little bit of our privilege, the waterfall gets stronger. May we be hungry for love, for justice, for change. And may the waters of justice flow and roll through us all. Thanks be to God. Amen.